Hey everyone, today we are doing a teardown of the GeForce
RTX 3090 Ti.
So this is the EVGA 3090 Ti FTW3. We have a full review of this on the channel already, but sadly for NVIDIA, maybe not for EVGA, this product is far more interesting for the card and not the actual GPU on the card. So the cooling solution is massive. It's 3.5 slots, which is comically huge. And it's so big that it even comes with what EVGA calls an eLeash. It's a support. You tether it to the top of your computer case because that's how large the cards are getting now. So we're gonna take this apart. Really excited actually to see the thermal solution because it performed pretty well for a card that was pulling at times 530 watts. Let's get started. Before that, this video is brought to you by Be Quiet and the Silent Base 802 case. The Silent Base 802 got high accolades in our review for its high build quality and its versatility in both silence-focused and airflow-focused builds. The 802 comes with swappable mesh panels or noise-damped panels, so you have options for either approach. The Silent Base 802 case is able to fit larger builds as well without being overbearing, and it stands out for its mechanics quality and assembly quality. Learn more about Be Quiet's new case at the link in the description below. I wanted to start out with Andrew behind the camera mentioned that this is the first time he's heard of the eLeash, which, how could you not hear of the eLeash before now? I did want to look at this before we get into the thing that's actually interesting because it does seem a bit insane to me that we're at this point with products, but this is what EVGA calls the eLeash. I would like to go on record with two things here. One of them, hey EVGA, why E? And the other one, why leash? Anyway, with that behind us, this thing, let's remove the formal wear here. Let's just remove the $300 of value that they've added to the price. But this hooks in with this foot up here. We're gonna get to the card in a second, but hooks in here, and then it tethers to the top in like a radiator screw, basically. And if you don't have a radiator, then I guess you could tether it into the top of the case anyway. But I was also just had a brief moment where I was thinking, why would you not have a radiator if you're spending $2,200 on a video card? And then I realized probably because you spent $2,200 on a video card, so there's no more money left for radiators. But it hooks into the top of the case. This can adjust the cable. Wait. All right. Wait, what? Okay, that can go that way. Can it not get longer? Wow, this is a pain in the ass. Okay, let's take apart the video card. So this is the 3090 Ti FTW3. It comes with this octopus, which supports 3 8-pin PCIe cables, all plugging into the card and then connecting via a single 12-pin connector. This can handle sufficient power for at least what this card is. However, if you look at it, EVGA has left room for itself because there's the 12-pin connector right there, and then next to it, you can see the solder pads for potentially another 12-pin connector. Not found on the FTW3, almost certainly will be on the Kingpin card of the 3090 Ti. We're assuming there will be one anyway. And as of yet, not populated, but that would bring you up to 6 PCIe cables, almost becoming a true octopus. I really hope EVGA just goes for 8 just to call it a day and make the marketing achieve its full potential. But that's kind of what they're doing for the power solution. Very high power consumption. We measured this at about 500 watts stock, and with the default VBIOS power offset of 107%, 7% additional on top of baseline, it was 530 watts with occasional spikes during testing to 560. So walking around the card, the backplate is substantial. This, obviously, there's just like a lot of art and design going into it. Some surface area here, some gaps for a little bit of flow through for the air to come through the fin stack and out through the back of the card, but clearly deprioritized on this particular design. Very critically here, as we talk about in the review, all of the memory modules are now on the front of the PCB, so no longer do you have to worry about cooling sufficiently the back of the PCB where the memory modules used to be. That's because the density has increased, and so they're able to put them all on one side, which will help significantly with its generation. For other features on the card, there's a VBIOS switch up here. This has 3 switch positions. It defaulted to performance, at least as it was shipped to us. It has an OC position on the far right, and then it has a normal position on the far left, or at least depending on your perspective. That's my perspective on it. So these 3 modes do nothing other than change the fan curve. The power target is the same on all 3 of them. It's 480 watts for the power target, and then if EVGA has an unlocked vBIOS later, if one leaks, then that's where they'd become a little more useful. For additional items here, before we take it apart, there's a 4-pin fan header there, so you could have a fan follow the performance of the GPU if you wanted to ramp up or down based on the GPU thermals. RGB header over here. These 3 connectors down here, very accessible, so that's great, because these are the most likely things to be sort of worked on by an end user. Those are just the fan headers for the fans on the actual card. And then finally, the NVLink bridge is just a joke at this point. Let me show you why. I'll be right back. So here's why the NVLink bridge is silly on this card. It's like they're mocking us at this point with how irrelevant multi-GPU has become other than competitive overclocking. This is an NVLink, and as you can see, if you had 2 of these, you would have approximately, I don't know, 5 millimeters of room to breathe between the 2 cards. So probably don't plan on this. If you water block them, you'd be in much better shape, but most multi-GPU setups these days are for things like render farms, game development, or I guess mining, and in all those scenarios, you don't need NVLink. It doesn't do anything for you. I guess it's not 100% true. You could do some memory pooling, but that's not really how these cards are used typically. Okay, let's get started with the teardown. We are going to use the GN Teardown Toolkit. You can grab these on store.gamersnexus.net. We have specifically tuned these for video card disassembly. For most of the video cards on the market, these will be able to completely disassemble them. So it comes with a set of Allen, all different sizes, Phillips. There's some custom ground down hex heads where we've sanded them down and ground around the edges so that the clearance against capacitors is higher so that you can get it in to work on smaller electronic devices on boards. Okay, we're going to track this as well on the mod mat. I think we are going to have to take out all the screws in the back plate to get just the cooler dismounted. Sometimes you don't have to, but that's going to be a good thing here. This is so massive. I actually do think they need that stupid leash thing. I don't think it's a joke. I think it's real. Okay. It's going to be 4 screws for the leaf spring retention kit, which is what this is. Okay, we're going to pull the back plate. Ow. I think it's made of metal. Ask me how I know. Aha, there's one hiding. Definitely some thermal pads going on down here. Okay, so for thermal pads, they're using the thicker, more clay-like ones rather than thermal putty on the backside, which is all fine. If you need to replace these on your own, then first of all, congratulations on your yacht. And secondly, the thermal pad you want would be about, is that really 2.5? That's such a strange size. Let's check here. It is. Oh, it's 3. Okay, with compression, you're going to be buying a 3 millimeter thermal pad. That is a very abnormal size, but they do exist. Especially for yacht owners. There's a heat pipe right here, extremely flat copper heat pipe. This appears to be really just trying to spread some of the heat load collected on the backside of these caps, which are actually going to be on the opposite side of some of the memory modules. So this is new. We normally don't see the larger caps in the back of the memory modules, but so this heat pipe, this thermal pad's purpose is to pull heat away from the back, away from the flip chip BGA memory package. Flip chip BGA means that the actual silicon is closer to the PCB than it is to the top of the black module that you'll see on the other side, which means that a good amount of heat is sort of just sitting here in this area of the board, this area, and this area where the memory is, so this will actually help. And the heat pipe, not sure really how effective one of this size is. There's not a lot of room in there for really much of anything, but the goal EVGA has is just pull heat away from this area in the evaporator end over to the condenser end and start spreading it through the rest of the plate, which is in fact an aluminum. So this is just connected to the PCB. That's the LED. It is not connected to the back plate. That's awesome to see. Much easier to maintain. You don't even have to disconnect it. So that's pretty good. The VRM, we can already tell, is going to be massive for the voltage regulator module and component. There's a controller on the back side here, and this is a MPS 214B, MP2891 on the back. I think we should actually be able to pull the cooler away right now. I think the only thing really holding it all together is going to be thermal pads and thermal paste. There's one screw here. There's these screws need to come out, but the lower ones don't unless we remove the I/O. So the GN toolkit we're using helps us with our reviewing endeavors and also gets you a very high quality toolkit in return that we've custom designed over the years specifically for working on GPUs. It's a 10-piece toolkit with a very convenient roll bag, and you can hang them on pegboards pretty easily as well with the tool labels all etched into the plastic, molded in. Okay, let's just go ahead and get this I/O off completely. I don't think it's really going to pick up on camera. Hang on, I'm going to let you guys hear the creaking noise. Oh, it's going to be ASMR card breaking. So what you're actually hearing is the thermal pads holding it like glue. So you can't afraid too much when removing the video cards, the PCB from the cooler. Just make sure all the screws are removed, obviously. All right, nice. We have preserved the thermal pads. This is actually a pretty good design from what I'm seeing so far. It explains a lot. You know, this card, this is why I said it's a little sad for EVGA and the partners, where they're still making good products. It's interesting, some handwritten notes on here. They're still making pretty good products, but because of the GPU pricing situation, availability and everything, they're getting dragged through a lot of the price criticism that is largely created at the source of it. But anyway, so here's what we got. That's interesting. This is what I noticed right away. That's a vapor chamber. It's very easy to identify vapor chambers. You can typically tell, well, I mean, one, just by how it looks, but if you haven't figured that out yet, then this normally is the identifier for a vapor chamber. That's where it gets sealed and pinched. So that's a vapor chamber for the bottom. The rest of this is standard aluminum fin stack, aluminum contact or support plates, depending on, you can see these are designed to be threads for screws coming through from the PCB, potentially through the back plate for some of them. So for this board, we have a large empty area over here, but this creates a big gap between where some of the power management, this is so many shunt resistors right now. These are all shunt resistors. These are probably 5 milliohm. Shunt resistors flanking these inductors. These are the ones you would short or you would piggyback shunt mod if you were going to increase the power limit without using just a hack-to-be BIOS or something. But once you add 6, it gets to be a pain in the ass to do. You would want to avoid piggyback modding or shorting any shunt resistors that lead to the PCIe slot. It's not necessary, just the power cables would be enough. But we're not going to be talking about that any further today. For the rest of this, let's see, for memory modules, there's 3 modules here. I'm going to call attention to the writing here in a minute. So for memory modules, here's what we got. 4, 8, and then 12 modules. That gives us 24 gigabytes. That makes sense. The density is 2 times higher. So we're at 2 gigabytes per module. It used to be half of them on the back. So that's what's happened there. That's what's allowed NVIDIA to relocate all the memory to the front side of the board, which is massively helpful in memory thermals because it was actually really difficult to keep a lot of the 3090 backside memory under 100 degrees Celsius. And this whole cooler now, you've got this whole 3.5 slots of cooling comedy you can apply to the memory modules. So that's a lot. It's a lot more than with the backside. Previously, you're kind of just, this is what you had to work with as a manufacturer, and that's not a lot to work with. So this is a huge improvement, if only for that reason. Unfortunately, the pricing does sort of take away a lot of the steam that the improvement would have. But regardless of price, that is the biggest benefit you're going to get from this. It's certainly not in the performance uplift, which is minimal. For the GPU, I am really curious about this. I guess I should call EVGA and ask why they wrote 2040 on it. 7940 2040's got to be the clock. This has to be the clock for sure, because that's the clock it was running at. Let me call Jacob.
Hello.
Hey, I'm doing a teardown right now.
Yeah.
Did you, the card you sent me, the GPU says it's a 2040, not a 3090 Ti.
2040?
Yeah.
Where does it say that? On the GPU die?
Sort of.
What? Do you have a picture?
Are you guys binning for the FTW3?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that okay to be?
All the FTW3s are binned, not only for frequency, but also for like to maintain a good power temperature portfolio.
Okay.
So, I mean, that might be part of it. I need to check with my team because those came from, I didn't even open those pretty much. So.
Taiwan, I guess?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it says 2040 in the bottom right. It says, I think, 794 in the top left. Does that mean anything to you?
794? No.
And it says 0 in the top right.
All right, I can find out.
Okay. It's like cryptic. All right. Is it okay if it's public that they're binned?
Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, it's pretty common knowledge that we bin cards, especially that one.
Okay, so while we're waiting for Jacob, he's on Twitter if you want to say hi to him. He does pretty great work over there. While we're waiting for Jacob to get back to us, hopefully before the end of the night, because it launches tomorrow, what that means, I'm going to clean off the GPU itself. They've got it is a really good thermal paste application here. This is done by machine, I'm pretty sure. Really even spread on this, so spread's pretty great. There's only 2 spots where it could be a little bit better, but and actually you can see that up here in that corner down there, but overall it looks good. So the GPU die, here you go. This is a GA102 die, which is exactly what was in the rumors. It is a -350. That's the subclassification of basically what is activated within this die. So you're looking at the diffusion barrier on top, which is on a layer on top of the silicon itself. And then some of the SMs on different models will be deactivated based on how they're binned, how they're skewed. And then it's an A1, which we'd see on everything. I think it's just a basically shipping revision. For a rough approximation of die size by external measurements only, so we're not going to get the exact, because we're measuring the diffusion barrier too. It is about 27.3 by about 23.9 or so millimeters. This is a very large die to cool. The memory is supplied by Micron. You can see Micron's logo right there. So they're doing this higher density memory for the 3090 Ti. Oh, I had a phone call literally now.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, yeah, I had to make some calls because I saw your pictures. I wasn't quite sure myself, so.
Yeah.
For the early production, they did sort out the cards. So the 30, the FTW3, there is a frequency spec that it needs to meet. And I believe a voltage, which may be that other number as well, but I'm double checking.
Okay.
And so why it was written on the card, that part, I'm not sure. But I do know that for the early, especially on the early production, it was a very hands-on approach to doing this and sorting the cards out properly.
Is that because the card is coming out in early January or late January, which is what it is now?
What?
Nothing. They're pre-sorted, at least for the initial launch, because they were rushing to get them out the door because, as everyone knows, NVIDIA was targeting to launch these in late January. It's March 28th. So they were in a hurry.
The RTX 3090 Ti.
Okay, so for the rest of the cooling, let's take a look. Here's how it breaks down. The fin stack is massive. So most of this cooler is made up of a fin stack. There's a lot of plastic here too. This does serve a purpose in that it is protecting and housing the fans and also guiding the flow of the fans down. So it's not like the plastic can just go away. That depth is going to be there because of at least the minimum depth required by the fans. So a lot of plastic right there, and fans, of course. And then the fin stack is hooked up to a lot of heat pipes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 8 heat pipes, at least primary. There might be some smaller ones in there. 7 that terminate at the end over here. And there might, oh yeah, there's one that terminates a little sooner over here where the cutout is for the fans. They actually cut that one off a little sooner. Or not for the fans, but for this cable. So 8 total heat pipes. I can see these are 8mm heat pipes. You can see these holes perforated through here. This was introduced on the ICX cards originally. I need to talk about that actually. This is an ICX board, so what that means is it has several NTC thermistors placed around the board, and NTC thermistors are just for temperature monitoring. Very small components that are placed adjacent to hot spots. So with a microscope, we'd be able to find them a little easier, but there's going to be a couple scattered around the memory modules, effectively touching the corner or edge of the module. That gives you a temperature reading through EVGA ICX software and also through GPU-Z. And then there's more thermistors around the power components, so you can take a reading for how hot those are. We previously validated EVGA's ICX solution against our own third-party thermocouples and found them to be accurate. So it does tell you a real temperature. It's one of those things where you can't really act on it, but it's a really nice troubleshooting tool. So not a tremendous amount of value add as a consumer other than being able to much more easily sort of make sure your card's functioning as expected and rule out thermals as a cause for an issue you may be seeing. One more thermistor location will be on the back here. They do a GPU2 readout, which is backside of the GPU. Kind of cool. You can take a delta front to back, but one of them is going to be NVIDIA's. Final notes on this. This is nickel-plated copper. This is aluminum. I believe this is aluminum as well. And most of the cooling capacity here is going to be made up of just that fin stack and the fans, obviously. Okay. That's a piece of plastic with LEDs in it. And then this is the heatsink. So if you were to replace your fans, what you would need to do, this is actually nice. Most of this you could do without ever removing the cooler from the PCB. So you would pull this part of the heatsink, well, not really heatsink, but shroud off, and these would already be disconnected, so now you're able to just replace the fans. The sort of downside, actually, you don't even have to unscrew the fans to get here. The downside with this is routing the cables. Might be a little easier with access to the PCB, but they all do stay pretty much external and then come down through here. So overall, I'd give EVGA pretty high grade here for ease of maintenance for the end user if you're able to just source a fan and drop it back on. As for the rest, here's what I thought was interesting enough to do the extra effort. This plate, you know, we see these normally, these plates, but this structure is partly designed to try and hold the card together as it sags under the enormous weight of a 3.5 slot card. It's almost 2 millimeters of aluminum. So 2 millimeters thick here. This big beam comes all the way out to the end where 3 screws bolt into it through the expansion slot cover, and that supports most of the card. Okay, so that's it for the teardown. I want to put this all back together and get it back in the bench for some more work. So a couple things to go over here. The cooler is in fact functional and good. I mean, it did well coping with a 500 watt heat load from the GPU plus whatever the memory was putting out plus the VRM, and overall, well, I guess the whole thing was 500 watts for the total board power. So for the cooling capacity, as we say in the review, we would rate it as good. It's just that the problems start to emerge when you evaluate the fact that there's a price associated with buying the 3090 Ti, and that the performance in things like average frame rate, it doesn't jump that much versus a 3090. So the biggest value is just having all the memory on one side, and that doesn't really feel like that much of a gain since you're not increasing the memory capacity either. So anyway, on EVGA's side of things, we would say this is well engineered. You could run this significantly quieter than they're running it out of the box and lose a little bit of the frequency, 15 megahertz or so, but you'd be able to drop the fan RPM 200 to 400 or so off the top, drop the noise levels a lot, increase the thermals a little bit, but still be well within spec on all of the components. So EVGA has done well on its part, but probably you still shouldn't buy it. Sorry, EVGA. This 3090 Ti is just kind of ridiculous. So a little too much for basically anyone. If even under scalped prices, if you can get a 3080 or an RX 6800 XT or something, and all you care about is gaming, you should probably just do that. But if you're more interested in production workloads, we make use of the 24 gigabytes of memory on higher end video cards for things like Blender and Unreal Engine and stuff like that. It's just that, again, it kind of depends where the 3090 and the 3090 Ti fall for scalped prices, because it's not a big performance gain. As long as you buy a card with decent cooling on the backside on a 3090, then, or you water cool it, then you're kind of taken care of. But this would be cheaper in the sense that you don't need to water cool it to get good memory thermals. It's just out of the box, it works fine with air cooling. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. As always, subscribe for more. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net if you'd like to grab one of the toolkits, which are in stock and shipping now. Actually, also our coasters just restocked, so you should grab those as well. They are shipping out the door, including back orders first. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.